Hi. Hola.
Hi, here's Mr. Dozy.
This is Michael Bradley.
Hey, I'm Memphis.
Hey.
Hola. Hello.
I'm here with soccer.com.
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 And I'm talking with my friends soccer.com.
See you soon.
Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com bringing you my review/overview video of the brand new junior Nike Mercurial Superfly 5 in the Spark Brilliance pack colorway. Now this is the youth/junior version of the Superfly 5, and I'm sure a lot of you guys who are just watching the video and not listening to what I'm actually saying, you've already left a comment saying those are fake Superflies or those aren't Superflies at all. And you'd be wrong. This is the junior version, so they make it from size 4 US to 6 US, so only 4 different sizes in this particular shoe. It has a retail price of $150, which is half the price of a regular pair of men's Superfly 5s, and as you can very clearly see, it's not Flyknit, it doesn't have the same sole plate, it essentially doesn't have anything that you would get on a pair of Superfly 5s, aside from the fact that it does have the same stud pattern and it is a mid-cut shoe. This is the first time that a youth variation of the Superfly has been available, and it's obviously a lot different for reasons that I'm going to explain in today's video. Essentially what you're getting with the youth Superfly 5 is the men's Mercurial Veloce 3 DF, but at a lower price, of course. So in today's video, we are going to go over all the details as far as tech specs and performance features are concerned. We're going to take a look at the weight of the shoe because obviously that does matter a little bit. There will be no on feet because obviously I can't wear them. This particular pair is a size 6 US. But again, we're going to go over all the details, and I think if you are interested in these, you would want to know. So if you want to learn more, stick around, watch the entire video. If you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you'll find Buy It Now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $150 retail. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. And with that being said, let's get right into the review. To start things off, let's go over all the tech specs of the Junior Superfly 5 and also talk about why it's so much different from the men's variation of the Superfly 5. Now the tech specs are the tech specs, but my reasoning as to why this is so much different is basically just my straight up opinion. This is not information that's been given to me by Nike, but I think my reasoning honestly is pretty accurate. So as to why this version of the Superfly 5 is nothing like the men's variation, there's a couple different reasons, and I think the main reason comes down to who would actually pay the money for the Superfly 5 if they shrunk it down to a youth scale. So you consider that the men's variation of the Superfly 5 retails for $300 US, which is very, very expensive. The Junior Superfly 5 retails for $150, which is half the price, a lot less expensive, but when you consider that it's a junior shoe that they only make from sizes 4 to 6, which are really the only sizes where you might find somebody who's going to be an older kid where their parents are actually going to spend the extra money to buy something this expensive, because ultimately this is a shoe that you are going to grow out of if you're in size 4 to 6 more often than not. So with that being said, $150 for a pair of shoes that for a lot of parents, they don't want their shoes to grow out of, or they don't want to spend a lot of money on a pair of shoes that their kids are going to grow out of. Even $150 is quite a stretch. And most parents just aren't going to spend that kind of money on a pair of shoes for their kids. So for that reason, they had to lower the cost. And really, the retail price doesn't necessarily reflect the cost of the materials within the shoe. I think that's a big misconception. But when you consider that you take the design of a men's shoe, this one being a size 9 US, this shoe being a size 6 US, which is the biggest youth size, you can only scale down the design of a shoe so much until you actually have to redesign things. So if you think about something like the Superfly 5, where it does have a Flyknit upper, you can only shrink down these cables and this pattern so small until it's just not doable anymore. So as you kind of get bigger, it gets more spread out, the material changes a little bit, but when you get so small, you just can't do it anymore. So I think for the simple fact that they couldn't make a Flyknit upper this condensed on a smaller size, especially something like a size 4, that's part of the reason why they didn't do it. And it would also up the cost of actually producing the shoe. They have to have the machines, they have to buy the machines to produce a shoe in these smaller sizes, and that cost of production probably was deemed to be not worth it in the long run based on how many of these they'd be able to sell. If they spent all that extra money in having the ability to manufacture a Superfly 5 in the men's variation on a smaller scale, the price of this shoe would likely be much closer to $300 than it is right now, which would make it an even more unlikely shoe for parents to buy for their kids if it's a shoe that, like I said, they're going to grow out of in a couple of months anyway. So I think that's the main reason why they couldn't justify making a shoe closer to the actual Superfly in youth sizes. But again, that's kind of just my reasoning. I just don't think there's too many parents out there that would spend $300 on a pair of shoes for their kid if they wear a size 4 to 6. Nonetheless, what they did give us isn't really a Superfly 5. So I don't completely agree with what Nike has done here in regards to advertising this as a Superfly, because really it's nothing like the Superfly 5. No Flyknit on this shoe whatsoever. This is basically the Mercurial Veloce 3 that we currently have in the men's variation, a shoe that I made a video on not too long ago, but shrunken down to a youth size variation. So what you have here is what is considered a microfiber synthetic upper. That's what the tech specs say. Certain tech specs will list it as Tasian synthetic as well. It feels quite similar to what you're going to find on a Mercurial Vapor 11, but maybe just a touch thicker, but it's still very, very thin. Offers that nice barefoot feel that you obviously would want. And it doesn't feel cheap, but it certainly isn't the Flyknit that you're going to find on the Superfly 5. They are entirely different in that regard. You obviously won't find flywire cables on this particular shoe for obvious reasons as well. The texturing on the surface of the upper is fairly minimal. It's pretty much just printed on in the form of the black and pink stripes. That does have some texture to the touch, but not something that honestly you're going to feel all that much on the ball. The shoe does not feature ACC all conditions control, even though it technically is a top-end model from Nike. At least there's no branding on the shoe, but again, not really a make or break feature in my opinion. Laces still run through the middle, as you guys can see. And then you do have that elasticated material filling out what is the middle of the shoe where the tongue would normally be, and the collar. So this is the first ever mid-cut Mercurial that we've seen available in youth sizes. Again, this material is not actually made from Flyknit like you'll find on the Superfly 5. It's just an elasticated material, again, like what you would find on the Veloce 3, as well as the Hypervenom Fatal 2 DF. So those are basically just those shoes, but shrunken down here on this particular pair. Still gets the same point across, still has honestly the same feel. It's just that the quality isn't quite the same. But again, they probably couldn't justify spending the extra money to develop actual Flyknit on a smaller scale for this particular shoe, just because they probably wouldn't get their money back out of it. You do have an internal plastic heel counter here. The heel liner is a smooth synthetic leather with some padding back there, so very similar in terms of construction when compared to the men's variation of the Superfly 5. I'll give you guys a quick look at the insole. Just give me a second here to remove it. It is fully removable, so that's nice. And again, pretty much the same as what you're going to find on a Superfly 5. It features a mesh liner on top, and it's made from a decent thickness of this kind of spongy material. Really like this particular insole material. So I would imagine step-in comfort is very similar to the men's variation, although I can't actually put my foot inside of these, again, for obvious reasons. And then moving on to the sole plate. Again, this is taken straight from the Mercurial Veloce 3, just on a smaller scale, but I guess a little bit different because it is that much smaller. The studs themselves are a little bit smaller in shape as well as length, just to kind of scale down to the actual size of the shoe. You couldn't have this super long stud and bigger studs, as you guys can see when they're side by side, just because it wouldn't really make sense on this particular size of shoe. Given the person wearing it, it's just not going to have the weight and size to, I guess, dig in with these bigger studs. It just isn't necessary. So it is all kind of shrunken down a little bit. The sole plate itself is just a straight up TPU plastic material with some really good flexibility to it. It is on the thinner side, not the same kind of one-piece material with the anatomical shaping that you will find on the Superfly 5. This is more of just kind of a standard plastic sole plate. And again, you do get the Mercurial stud pattern that, even though the studs are slightly different size in terms of just being smaller in general. I still expect this to perform very, very well as far as traction is concerned. This being the firm ground variation, of course, so super aggressive traction from this new Mercurial layout, and it most certainly will not let you down. So that's pretty much it in terms of what you're getting with the youth variation of the Superfly 5, and my reasoning as to why the youth variation isn't the same as the men's variation. Is this really a true Superfly 5 experience? The simple answer to that question is no, it's not. Honestly, I don't think this should be labeled as a Superfly 5, but I think just for the sake of kids wanting to say they have a pair of Superflies, that's why this shoe bears the Superfly 5 name. So is it worth it? As a high-end youth Mercurial model, this is going to be the best quality on offer. There is a Vapor 11 youth variation as well, and potentially I could do a review on those if you guys want to see it. But if you want the mid-cut design and you wear a youth size, you want something that has the Superfly 5 name and look, then yeah, this may be worth the money to you. But if you don't really care too much about that, you just want the best quality possible, then probably I would imagine the Vapor 11 youth variation is pretty much the same shoe minus the collar at a slightly lower price. So it really is up to you on what you want to spend your money on or what your parents want to spend the money on. But like I said, if you were buying these with the hopes that they would feel anything like the men's variation of the Superfly 5, I'm sorry to tell you, they really aren't similar at all. For the sake of knowledge, I guess, I'm gonna weigh this pair for you today in real time using this scale. Keep in mind that this is a brand new pair in a size 6 US, so this is the biggest youth size available. We're gonna throw them on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 6.4 ounces, the equivalent of 182 grams. So overall, they're pretty light shoes in comparison to the men's variation of the Superfly 5. That sole plate is a lot lighter than what you're going to find on this particular shoe. Not necessarily because of the size, because obviously it's going to be bigger on a men's shoe, but the material itself is just a lot lighter. So you'll find that even though this is significantly smaller than the size 9 US Superfly 5 that I just showed you, it's actually almost the same weight. These are just a little bit lighter, again, because they are a smaller size. Smaller the shoe, the lighter it's going to be. But nonetheless, again, if you want a higher end Mercurial, you want something with that mid-cut design, something that's going to have a thin upper and a tighter fit overall with very good traction, but you also want it to be relatively lightweight, this will definitely provide that sensation for you. All right, guys, that is it for my review / overview video of the youth variation Nike Mercurial Superfly 5. If you guys are interested in more info, be sure to check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you'll find the high quality images of this exact pair that I took myself. That'll give you a better idea as to how they actually do look in person, as well as buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes. We'll be able to pick these guys up below their normal $150 retail price. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. If you have any questions at all regarding this shoe, leave them down below in the comments and I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. As always, thanks for watching.